Fra pochi giorni devo tornare a Milano. Devo consegnare l'articolo la settimana prossima.
Un articolo? E su cosa?
Gli architetti e gli ingegneri italiani che lavoravano in Siam. Bangkok, detto la Venezia d'Oriente, era una città d'acqua, i cui canali erano ovunque. L'aveva commissionato Re Ramo V per stupire i popoli con la visione piacevole di qualcosa di inconsueto.
Good afternoon, I'm Nigel Oakins, founder of Koktail magazine and also of Koktail Conversations. We've got three very special guests today. On my immediate left is Francesca Andreini, who is the resident of this beautiful house. It's the Italian ambassador's residence in Thailand. I'm also with Stefania Kim Gardini, who is the lead actress in the film we're going to be talking about, and Marco Gatti, who is the director of that film. So without further ado, I'm going to start off by toasting you all with this wonderful little late afternoon cocktail we have, which is, Francesca, what is it?
This is spritz. It's a typical Italian cocktail. I think everybody knows it. Quite good and refreshing.
Okay, so let's have a spritz together.
Cheers. Salute.
Salute, yeah. Perfect for the late afternoon in Bangkok. Francesco, if I may start off by asking you questions, because this discussion is going to be about a special movie. It's a movie that I saw perhaps, 10 days ago. It's completely new. That was the premiere. I think it's called Me and the Magic Door.
Yes.
And I believe you were the scriptwriter for it and the originator of the whole
idea.
Concept.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about how you originated. What did you do to conceive this project?
Well, you know, when I arrived here, I was struck by this city being so modern. All the skyscrapers and the buildings that were quite amazing. Coming from Italy, the first thing that really struck me was how modern Bangkok is. Wow. Where are the old buildings? So little by little, we discovered many of them actually. Old traditional buildings, many temples, and some strange European style buildings. And I really got curious. Me and my husband we both said, oh, what are these houses? What are these buildings? Some of them we found out are important governmental buildings. So one is Government House, another one is the Ministry of Defense, and many others.
Were these all Italian, or were you just interested just because there's so many old buildings?
Just because of these European buildings, why they have been, why they have been restored. They are very well kept. And they are still in use. So we got curious about them and found out that many of them were made by Italian engineers, architects, and eventually were decorated by Italian artists. You know, I started doing some research and reading books and found out that there was this story, a beautiful story behind these buildings, because there were many Italian people who came here between the end of the 19th and the beginning of the 20th century to work, again, as engineers, architects, and artists. Some of them came here just because they were entrepreneurs who wanted to, try new life in Siam. But many of them, most of them, were called by the Siamese government to build these new buildings. For that time, very innovative.
This was the reign of King Rama the Fifth and King Rama the Sixth. So were they integral to this, or
they were very? Yeah,
okay.
Both of them, they were much in love with Italian art. They knew very well Italian art and culture, and so they were connoisseurs. And Rama V, for example, came twice. He started his European tours from Italy, and he was very good friends with the Italian prince first, and heir to the throne, and then to his father, the king of Italy. So, you know, the royal families were very good friends, and this also helped, obviously, to build this very strong bond of, I would say, cross-cultural experience, exchange.
Were you surprised that so many of these beautiful buildings were actually designed and built by Italian architects and engineers?
I was very surprised because there were so many of them, and I said, what happened? Why it's so? It's a story that no one knows. I knew nothing about it. All the people I was talking with knew nothing about it. And so I thought, okay, maybe it's a story that is worth, you know, being known a little bit more. There was a book, a very interesting book written by Professor Paolo Piazzardi on this topic, and the embassy had published this book a few years before. But actually, I wanted something that could really reach an audience that was much wider.
Were you looking for a project? Because you've had a very storied career in writing, in producing. You work for advertising agencies, you've written books, you've won awards for screenplays and so on. But were you setting out to find something to do, and then this hit you as something that would be brilliant to do? Or was it something that just had to be done?
I don't know. When I imagined how I could tell this story, I wanted to do a documentary, but I imagined, and then working with Marco Gatti also, we developed the idea of a girl. So to make, because I was discovering these buildings one by one, and I was surprised. And I wanted a character that would show this surprise and would make the audience discover these buildings like I discovered them, one by one, and being surprised by what she is seeing, what they are seeing on the screen.
So the lead actress was looking at these through your eyes and discovering them one by one.
Absolutely.
And you came up with the idea that she would be writing a story for an Italian architecture magazine, and she wasn't a particularly easy girl to get along with when she first arrived in Bangkok.
This also, you know, was to add a little bit of pathos and interest into the story.
So the story is what you called a docudrama. Why did you do? Did you feel the documentary it'd be fun, but it would just be kind of there for history? But with a docudrama, there's a bit of a story, some intrigue, and you can lift it. You can lift it a little higher in the.
Yeah, it was more intriguing. For sure, and I hope we really we succeeded in doing it.
So who did you? So you had the idea and you did the research and everything else, and then so Marco, when did you come on the scene, Marco? What was your role?
Working on the stories, because we worked together from the beginning, developing the stories, and then Francesca, you know, all of this. So again, the work was. We had the chance to work on an extended time. This is it's something clear in the result, because we developed the script along 5-6 months.
Did you co-write the script?
No. The stories.
The story.
We had just regular exchange and feedback, writing message continuously, exchanging idea, but Francesca wrote completely the scripts. But the story was at the general level, so the plot, the story, I think in Italian we say the soggetto. We write together the stories, but the script was written by Francesca, dialogues.
So how did you get it funded, and how did you make it reality? At the screening of the film, the culture Minister of Culture gave a very gracious opening welcome to everybody. So I presume they must have been involved. Did they provide you access to the buildings, or how were they involved?
Well, we got a lot of help from the Thai institutions, obviously, otherwise we couldn't have get access into such official and important buildings as Government House and Villa Pitsanulok, that is Ban Pitsanulok in Thai, and is the residence of the official residence of the Prime Minister. And then also Office of the Royal Household allowed us to enter the gardens of the Throne Hall. So Ananta Samakon, and it was a great privilege and honor for us. We couldn't enter the building, but I think we could really
you could portray its magnificence
pictures, yes,
from the exteriors,
outside, and it's quite amazing.
Go back to the question. So how did you finance it? Because it's a beautiful production. Did you get the Italian government helping you, or is there some private? Oh.
No, no, it was just the embassy and a sponsor.
So you funded it within Bangkok, and it was a project of love almost that
yes,
you wanted
absolutely.
to see through
We
to
all
completion.
worked out of pure love over this project. And
so you came up with the idea of an Italian Thai girl coming back to Bangkok on an assignment to write a story about this historical period. When did Stefania come into the picture? Because she looks like she was purpose-built for this.
Yeah, she is really
So
Kim.
Stefania,
Actually, she's
Funny story.
tell us that story.
Funny story, when they first reached out to me and the first time I read that script, I thought this was like a joke, but actually my character was initially called Kim. And there was so many like personal overlaps with the stories that I'm very happy that they've put so much faith in me also, because I was at the time I was in Italy, and when we started the conversation, and I think it just kind of came together very serendipitously, and I couldn't be more lucky.
How did they find you? What was the? Did you know that they were working on this project, and you sent in a few hundred emails saying you'd be ideal for it, or did you?
I think I came recommended through people that I've worked with
a
before.
common friend,
so you were
photographer
researching
working
who might be a possible. Now, what I found interesting when you made everybody made referred to the minister's opening remarks, the ambassador made opening, and you made some opening remarks as well, and you kind of hinted at that, discovering where you come from as half Thai and half Italian, and it comes through in the film as well. So was it kind of personal for you in some way?
Very much so. I think it's a very important additional dimension, and I think it's also a way to sympathize with the main character, that initially she's not very open, and you see her kind of flourish together, you know, through this journey together with this discovery of the building. She also kind of discovers her own background and what that means to her. And I think it's, for me personally, very valuable to kind of go through that together with the character. And I think it's important to show not just how great it is when these two cultures come together in terms of cultural exchange and architecture, but also on a more personal level for people such as myself of mixed background, or also people that have maybe an international experience, and what that means towards, you know, defining your own identity. And I think that's quite an important and very modern topic. And I think, you know, when you look at the past to see such a beautiful collaboration come to fruition, it's also the future. And I think that kind of ties it all together very nicely. And I think that's a very beautiful aspect of how Francesca wrote the story. Yeah.
And as the film progresses, you kind of get more and more comfortable and more human, as it were. As, you become almost a nice person by the end.
I would hope so.
I think your dad is part of the problem, if you don't mind me saying. He's not very well organized, and every time you try to get together with him, he's always got something slightly more important that comes up, you know. I mean, my son says the same about me, and I was thinking, oh my God, that's a reflection of me and my son. You know. Oh, for sure. So another question, Stefania. In the movie, I think your friend's name is Nam, is it right? Nam? And she's more grounded and down to earth, but she's also Italian Thai by birth. And but you seem to she turned you round during the course of the film, right? How important is that friendship for you in the movie?
I think very much so, because she helps kind of humanize my character, and I think my character Fai gets led around by a lot of important figures that kind of replace the absent father figure and kind of show her around and kind of open her up towards her other identity. And I think it's this contrast between the characters, but their friendship that really humanizes Fai, my character. And I think it's yeah, it's quite important actually, very much so.
Yeah, it comes through. I mean, it just feels so natural as you're watching the movie. I was saying to Marco when we were sitting down earlier this evening, you know, when you watch a documentary about Italian and architecture in Thailand at the turn of the 20th century, you imagine it will be a documentary of all these beautiful houses, and then overlaid against this is this really interesting storyline. You know, and it's slightly dysfunctional family, and the ghost as well in the background that is kind of leading you through this.
Yeah, this is another.
Tell me a little bit more about the ghost, because people in Thailand love ghosts.
You know, at first, I was seeing just a presence in these buildings, undistinguished. Some like a shadow coming and going, and something really that she could not define herself. But then we met Samuel, the actor. And he was strikingly similar to one of the architects that is called Mario Tamagno. Really, like
one of them.
His
so
face.
That's his real face and moustache.
He's like, it's like he's coming out of one of these old pictures, you know. And so I said, okay, maybe we must make something more out of his presence. And then little by little, he was also very good, a very good actor. We understood that we could really play more with him.
He doesn't say anything, does he? In the
no,
whole movie?
not a word, and he doesn't move.
He's a good mimo, like we said, a mimo.
He kind of
mimic.
He kind of tells you to come this way.
He doesn't move. He doesn't
But
walk.
it was difficult, that role, because he did very small gesture, but I think just moving the eyes, it wasn't easy
And then
doing that.
the idea came also, you know, he's flirting with her a little bit.
Well,
so there is this little
there was something going on there, wasn't there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, what happened when you got behind the door at the end?
It's a love story, finally.
You have to wait for the sequel.
The sequel.
It's also a love story, basically.
It is a love story, and it's a love story. Family, dad. You know, did you make it up with your dad as well afterwards? He finally showed up at the end.
He finally did.
We're giving it away here when you see it. Sorry about this. But.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
Yeah.
And here,
I think I guess the overarching theme is to be open towards maybe a different perspective that you might not necessarily be very happy with, because obviously there was a very absent dad, and I think my character struggles a lot with that. But going through this journey, discovering the architecture, she discovers also part of why her dad is why he left, why he returned to Thailand, and she kind of I feel almost like forgave him in that sense, and kind of just accepts him for who he is without like letting go of that almost like resentment of him not being there. She then goes through this journey of discovering the architecture herself, and then she's like, you know what, I get it. It's cool. And that's also really the moment where he shows up, is when you
learn to let go of that expectation of him. Yeah, there he suddenly is, waiting for you to make that move first, I think.
Yeah, I guess so.
and the ghost is helping her, like
The ghost
the
is on
friend,
the side,
but
right?
also the
He's
ghost.
totally on her
They
side.
both help her, you know.
It's a great little story. So now there were a lot of buildings. I couldn't believe how many beautiful buildings have been
They're
designed.
not even
by,
half.
And you only
of
touched the surface. What about this? Was this designed by an Italian?
This house, no, it's a typical Thai house.
All
but
right.
there was, in the same period, more or less, at the beginning of the 20th century, there was an Italian architect who did some additions.
All right.
So he had the veranda and
so
one
there's an
room
Italian
and
element to it.
terrace.
I got to ask you all, since you saw all those buildings, did you have a favorite? Maybe a different one. Marco, what was your favorite from all the buildings you saw?
Villa Pibultam, the last.
The very last
where
one.
there is the alternative energy.
Yeah.
I like. I don't know. I cannot say why, but I like that. It's a strange space and the terrace. And matter of fact, we choose that place for the final jump
scene,
in some way. And
well, you had full access to that as well, didn't you?
they were absolutely great, especially Villa Pibultam. We went there many times. I went a lot of times.
In
just in that place, because other place was not possible. Like government
that
house.
was the one,
or,
yeah. I mean, some of the bridges were nice as well. I had no idea they were designed by, even the little ones, right? You could imagine them in Venice or something, right? It was just extraordinary. Did you have a favorite building of all of those, or you agree with
For me,
Marco?
I don't know. I love Government House very much. It was designed thinking of Cadoro in Venice.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but it's even more grandiose if you compare it to the real Cadoro. I think it's
even better.
It's even better. I mean, I don't dare to say better, but
Maybe.
more grandiose, more extraordinary. So, and the colors are incredible, and it's really like they have broidered marble over this house. It's the decorations are astounding. I don't know how they managed to do that.
Stefania, a favorite building?
I would have to say the police museum, and it's also it's a beautiful building, and also it's surrounded by a beautiful garden with really tall trees. So it's not. It feels like it's really part of the landscape, but at the same time it's very surprising and magical, and it fits. It's right there where it's supposed to be. It's in Thailand, but it's Italian. So that's my favorite. Absolutely.
What's been the reaction from the Thai government and the Ministry of Culture? How have they received the film? Have they said this is going to change our perception of Italy, or?
No, they were very, very happy. They loved the movie. They really encouraged us. And, you know, we were strictly following also their guidance as to what needed to be provided in terms of permits and all, and we submitted the script to see if they sometimes they really could make very interesting corrections, you know, because obviously it was a huge work to get all the documentations. There are no books written on this topic, only a few in general about all this presence of Italian professionals, but not on the single monuments, on the single buildings. So we relied a lot upon the help of Professor Ngredi, Ajanang from Chulalongkorn University.
He was in the movie as well, right?
She's in the movie as well,
I think,
because she has the original documents. She has all the papers related to these buildings, how much it took to build them, in which year, but not for all of them. Some of them, there is almost nothing. You can understand that maybe that was the period, and very often they worked as an equipe, so you cannot really say who's the chief architect, because they were working all together.
Right.
So it's not difficult, and sometimes, for example, the Ministry of Culture could help us telling, like, this is the exact date, or, you know.
But they didn't interfere in your script. It's not controversial in any way, I guess.
There is.
So
I think it's really a nice story.
Helpful, How are you going to get it out to the audience it deserves to have? I know that you're going to make it available freely to any organization that wants to see it, but I would recommend that people do watch it if you've got any interest in architecture in Thailand, because it's an eye-opener and it's a nice film. So I can see they have a very strong academic interest. You know, anyone interested in architecture, traditional, you know, sort of 100 years ago.
Also in Thailand, I mean, some institutions ask for it.
There'll be some influences that some people want to have here as well. So, I tell you, what's your next project? Have you got? Are you working on individually and maybe collaboratively? But Francesca,
at present, I'm working on a conference on an Italian writer called Pasolini, a writer, journalist, and also director. Pier Paolo Pasolini.
I'm sorry, I've not.
Oh, okay, anyway.
Still alive?
And that's no.
Okay.
He was killed.
Was killed. It's I think Pasolini was killed. He made the 120 Days of Sodoma.
Oh, of course, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, but I'm talking about not a movie, but a work, a literary work.
Controversial intellectual.
Very controversial. So this is what I'm working at present on, but my mind never stops. So I have so many other ideas. And I'm also writing with a composer to write, you know, the words for the singer.
Okay.
Opera, but not an opera. I mean, a modern, contemporary music. So this kind of things.
And that's here to be
in
performed
Italy.
In Italy. Stefania, what about yourself? What are you working on right now?
So right now I am actually based in Italy, in Milan. So I'm working in the architecture and design world, and let's see what the future brings.
So you just recently finished some studies, I think, is that right?
I went to school again, I guess. So I did a 1-year course in interior and spatial design, and so with this project I've been able to kind of marry both my careers with creative design as well and architecture, as well as my modeling and acting. So this was just perfect.
Yeah, so your phone is open and you're waiting for people to call, but you seem a natural. I have to say, quite a lot of people in the audience around me were saying, oh, she's such a good actress. Whereas the other people seem to be playing themselves, or you're thinking, wow, they're doing a really great job of being who they are. But your kind of facial expressions, your disappointment, your snootiness at the beginning, your sort of gradual warming up, your expectations, your sudden interest in this architecture, even when you weren't interested when you were
it's
signed.
Something she's great also, because working outside in the heat is not for everybody. We were also admiring.
It's challenging.
I mean, people were saying, wow, the actress was great, right? So are you,
well, thank you. I hope so, yeah.
Is this, I mean, a lot of people do some acting, but they don't kind of make it a passion and a career, and it's not easy to do. You've got to really work to get those parts.
So it was quite challenging. It was the first time that I've had such an extensive and also layered role to represent, and so many lines with quite a lot of details and data to remember.
Right.
So that was quite new for me, and also my character, especially in the beginning, is quite different from who I really am. So I wasn't playing myself.
That's good to know, by the way.
So it was difficult to kind of switch into that a separate mindset, and also really kind of feel this disappointment towards her father, and this closing up, really, to then open up, which was a gradual journey, which was quite fun. And I think I must say, also thank you to Marco as a director and Francesca, who were really able to kind of backlight what was going on in her mind, especially because the character is very closed in the beginning. So you don't really know what's going on in her mind, but then to represent that, you have to kind of know what's going on. So it was a very difficult balance not to make it too obvious, but subtle enough. So it was, I must say, it was quite challenging for me, and I'm very, very thankful and happy that it all ended.
You're getting similar feedback to what I'm saying, I'm sure, because it was a really well done part. I'm sure Marco would agree, right? And Marco, yourself, what's your next major project? You must be
I don't know.
quite busy
also
after
because
doing
I don't know if I stay here in Bangkok or go back to Italy. Is not clear. It depends. There is something on the horizon, but I would like make a feature film, a fiction feature film here, but it's already 2 years that I'm working on this, so I don't know if it's the time now. Hopefully, if this film has quite good feedback, maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure you're going to get.
I can say that probably will be again a ghost story.
You guys, between the three of you, did a fabulous job. I have to say that. So, well, look, it's been great talking to you all. I'm absolutely thrilled with this drink as well.
Yes.
I'm going to have one last crack at it.
I will be very happy to follow you.
Cheers again. And many successes with this film and your individual careers going forward. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chin chin.
Thanks for listening. Koktail Conversations by Koktail Magazine is hosted by founder Nigel Oakins and editor-in-chief Mika Apichasakon. Follow us on Spotify to keep up with the latest conversation. You can also find us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at Koktail Magazine.